successful day. Myself, Rahul Sondalkekar, Student Coordinator for Institution Innovation Council, IIC, SKNCOP, would like to extend a very warm welcome to our eminent speaker, Dr. Padma Devrajan Ma'am, Dean, Research and Innovation, Professor in Pharmacy, Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai. Dr. Sanjay Sawant Sir, Principal, President, IIC SKNCOP, all the faculty members and the students. We at SKNCOP organize various webinars, seminars, guest lectures through GPAD Guidance Cell, EDC Cell, Alumni Association Activity Cell, and many more. This time, as a part of SKNCOP Innovation Cell Activities IIC, we have organized a webinar on the topic National Innovation and Startup Policy NISP, its implications on academic institutions. I request Dr. Neha Munot Ma'am, Innovation Activity Coordinator, IIC SKNCOP, to present the preamble.
Thank you, Rahul. Good afternoon and a warm welcome, Professor Dr. Padma Devrajan Ma'am, Dr. Sawant Sir, all the faculty members and dear students. First and foremost, I would like to thank Ma'am for accepting our invitation at such a short notice. We have organized this orientation session on NISP and its implication on academics, institutions, which aims at enabling higher education institutes to build, streamline, and strengthen innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem in campus, and will be instrumental in leveraging the potential of science, students' creative problem solving and entrepreneurial mindsets, and promoting a strong intra and inter-institutional partnerships. NISP will play a key role in identifying, mentoring, nurturing innovative and entrepreneurial potential of students and faculty, transforming them into startup entrepreneurs in near future. With this short preamble, I welcome you, ma'am, again. Over to you, Rahul. Rahul? I request Dr. Sawant sir to present the welcome address for today's session.
Thank you so much, Neha madam. At the outset, let me extend very warm welcome to Professor Padma madam for this very special session, because she has been involved in drafting this policy at national level. She is known as an immense contributor to the research and innovation at ICT Mumbai. And she is also a very national figure in research in pharmaceutical sciences. Probably most of our faculty knows this, but then this is more particularly for the students to know. My all colleague faculty members, students of this IIC, SKNCOP coordinators, and all my students to whom we look for future entrepreneurs and future innovators. We all know that the central government and then subsequently the state government also in last 3-4 years is strengthening the innovation ecosystem in the country, right from school level to the to the level where incubation centers are being strengthened with lot of money, lot of mentoring at the state government level, the central government level. Lot of funds are also being made available by the government, and this is to go for a few years. I think lot of innovations happens in the colleges, where young minds comes together. They get a lot of clues, ideas, on the campus from the colleagues, from the faculty members, and the entrepreneurial qualities are groomed, nurtured in college days. I recall, immediately I just came to know when now the Dr. Anji Reddy is no more of Dr. Reddy's laboratories. But when he was interviewed, once that interview I had seen, and he was doing in those days. Am I audible? Yeah, yeah. So in one of the interviews, when he was asked, how do you thought of, uh, coming out with the Dr. Reddy's laboratories? And then he said when he was doing PhD on NCL Pune, he thought of, starting his own company. Similarly, I know that a lot of students on different campuses, they have their innovative mind. They needs to be properly nurtured, and faculty plays a lot of very important role in nurturing these qualities, entrepreneurial qualities, innovative qualities, and therefore this is one more attempt from IICS NCOP that to mentor our students by very learned professor, Professor Padma Devrajan. So I'll not take much of time, but I look forward after sessions and sessions in this institute and lot of activities, competitions. SKNCOP contributes to some extent, to little extent, in developing the future entrepreneurs. And I would be more than happy to see, the current batch students after 5-10 years, they come to us or they tell us that, sir, we have started this company and we have made 100 crores of business in 1 year. We have made, we failed, but then we again spent our time, we invested our time and money and energy, and then we could now do it something better. And they have made the life of people very, very easy, comfortable, and they come out with very, very simple solutions, simple but innovative solutions for all kinds of help that we need in day-to-day, including the high technology. Or be simple thought process can also build big empires that we all know. So without taking, I think I request to mentor our faculty members, mentor our students, so that something fruitful happens. With these words, I once again welcome and thank you for sparing your valuable time for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I feel immensely proud to introduce our eminent speaker for today's webinar. Dr. Padma Devrajan ma'am is a Dean, Research and Innovation, Professor in Pharmacy, ICT, Mumbai. Ma'am is also a member of the Board of Governors, President of the Innovation Council, and in charge of the World Bank Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, TEQIP. Her research is in the area of drug delivery with a focus on innovative and affordable healthcare for human and veterinary application. Ma'am has made many peer-reviewed publications, and her books on targeted delivery published by Springer won her the Professor N.R. Kamath Book Award at ICT. Ma'am has 8 patents granted, 6 patents or technologies licensed, and 2 technologies commercialized. Her research is funded through a number of grants from the government and the industry, including companies from Japan, Germany, and USA. Ma'am is also a consultant to the pharma industry. Ma'am was the board member on the board of scientific advisors and chair of the Young Scientist Mentor Protege Committee of the Controlled Release Society, USA, and chair of the Outstanding Paper Award Committee of the Journal Drug Development and Translational Research. Ma'am is the patron member of the Controlled Release Society, Indian chapter, and member on the editorial board of the Asian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences and the European Journal of Drug Metabolism and Pharmacokinetics. Ma'am is the Vice President of the Society for Pharmaceutical Dissolution Science and was earlier the Chair Scientific Programmes of SPDS. She is also the first woman president of the Alumni Association of UDCT or ICT. Dr. Padma Devrajan ma'am is a gold medalist of Mumbai University at BPharm, a nominated fellow of the Maharashtra Academy of Sciences, a recipient of the American Association of Indian Pharmaceutical Scientists Distinguished Educator and Research Award 2011, and many more. Ma'am has also won the Bengaluru Nano Innovation Award for the nano system development for veterinary infection, the IPA-ACG SciTech Award for Innovation in Solid Dosage Form, and the OPPI Scientist Award 2018. Ma'am's most recent award is the Punjab Rao Deshmukh Outstanding Women Scientist Award 2019, awarded by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Government of India. With this introduction, I request Dr. Padma Devrajan ma'am to take the charge.
Thank you so much. Let me start by thanking the principal, Dr. Sawant, and the two teachers who got in touch with me, Dr. Vandana and Dr. Neha, who was continuously over the past 2 days interacting with me to ensure this program goes off well, for inviting me for this session, which is the orientation on the National Innovation and Startup Policy. I am deeply committed to innovation, and the fact that the government has realized and recognized that students and faculty at institutes must be allowed to progress in their innovative capabilities. It's simply because of that despite the short notice, I agreed to come and give this talk, and I hope everybody benefits from it. But before I begin, I would just like to clarify that I have not been on the national committee for this policy at all. I think that was something that has come out by mistake. I have been involved in developing this policy for ICT. That's for my own institute as a co-chair, along with Mr. Nitin Deshmukh, who's our very alumnus and managing partner at Kotak Equity. So I have experience simply because I've actually worked on the policy in the context of ICT implementation. I also would like to say that although I have not changed it in my CV because of the urgent manner in which I sent it, I have recently stepped down as president and handed over charge to a younger faculty colleague on December 21st. So that's a very, very recent development. And I would like to start where Dr. Sawant was talking about innovation and the excitement of seeing students come back after a few years saying they are entrepreneurs and maybe CEOs or CTOs of their own corporates, however small or big. The whole concept of the innovation policy, which the government has introduced in almost all higher education institutions as a first and not in all academic institutions, is to reduce that lag time and ensure that at least a few can walk out of the institute as entrepreneurs. So I think institutes should gear up for that, and also at the same time supporting faculty who at one time were not allowed to take up any other opportunity, particularly to also hone their innovation skills into successful entrepreneurship ventures. So the National Innovation and Startup Policy is a policy with a great vision. And with this, I will start by sharing my presentation now. Is the presentation visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So, yes. So while I was asked to talk about the NISP that you see is National Innovation and Startup Policy, I thought instead of just talking about the policy, I would also relate it to academic institutions. And that's why I thought I would title it as Implications for Academic Institutions. So basically, when we are talking of academic institutions, what are we referring to? We are referring to institutions that are seats of learning, institutions that are nurturing young minds, not just teaching young minds. The role of the institution is to nurture the young mind. Institutions that are working actively on creating leaders of tomorrow and also creating trained manpower for a range of applications depending on what the institution deals with, whether it's a pharmacy institution like ours, or whether it's a management institution, or maybe a law institution, whatever it be, trained manpower and leaders while nurturing young minds is the basic goal of academic institutions. Now, while this was the goal for very many years, in 2019, we have the government that has said, now we are introducing the National Innovation and Startup Policy, and we want to bring in a change. And what is that change? Now, this change that is being brought in through this NISP is a change that is fostering innovation, that is paving the way for entrepreneurship. And while doing this, it's creating a guiding framework for faculty and students, because we have so many higher education institutions, so that you have some kind of metrics that are followed, some kind of guidelines that are followed, and that is the framework provided by the NISP. So why has the government suddenly decided on this? This is a very visionary development and a very important development in the current context. Now, everybody talks of research in academic institutions, but what is research? Research utilizes funds to create knowledge, right? So research is that part of learning, or that part of science, or that part of innovation that is creating knowledge. But this knowledge needs to be used. So what is innovation? Innovation is application of this knowledge to create wealth. So while research uses wealth to create knowledge, innovation creates applications for this wealth to create knowledge. And this has become very, very relevant in India, particularly with the government also promoting the Make Up India, Startup India, Stand Up India, and most currently with the Prime Minister and the government having given this call for Atmanirbhar Bharat. So what is this call for Atmanirbhar Bharat? It says, let us stand on our feet and let us together work towards a $5 trillion economy by 2024. So this means Indians have to come together to nearly double the economy that is today. Today it's about 2.6 trillion, but we are aiming at 5 trillion, which is nearly doubling. And the effort there is going to be very, very high. Now, if we look at India on the GDP map, GDP global map, I think India stands 7, which is not at all a bad number. But if you look at India on the innovation map, which is global, you find that India features nowhere among the top 20 countries. And that is something that all of us need to stop and think. Are we Indians not capable? Individually, we are capable, and collectively, what is it that we can't achieve? So the whole idea of the government in introducing this NISP is to harness this capability. So the government is saying we are encouraging not only students, because The motivators of students, the nurturer of students are the faculty. So we are motivating faculty into entrepreneurship. Please carry your students along with you or facilitate them into becoming entrepreneurs. That is the call. That is the message of the National Innovation and Startup Policy. So why are we talking of innovation and startup? Because startup relates to entrepreneurship. So the government can simply say encourage startups. But startups need ideas. Ideas come through innovation. And that is why what was to come up as just a startup policy has been comprehensively developed as an innovation and startup policy. And this NISP 2019 is a sequel to an earlier AICT policy. But today, the government is not only introduced this policy, but they are also focusing on implementing this policy. And I'm sure that's the reason why I'm here. Because every institution is being told, move, use the NISP freedom that's given to you, generate your NISP and start moving ahead. So why innovation and startup? And why is India not in the top 20? That is something we really need to think about. As a country, India has a history of innovation, and I will be showing you some innovations right from, I don't know which century, early centuries with the zero. All of us know that India has contributed zero to the global or to the world, and the decimal system is India's contribution. And I don't see the decimal system being replaced by a binary or a quaternary system at all. The decimal system is something that has stood the test of time. That is India's contribution. Understanding the Earth's orbit around the sun, again India's contribution. We all know that Ayurveda is India's contribution. So here I picked up some things that all of you are likely to know. Some things that were new to me, which I thought many would not know, but some of you could know. So Ayurveda, we all know, is India's contribution. But are we aware that the first plastic surgery and the first eye cataract surgery was done in India by Sushruta? We've heard of Sushruta, we've heard of Sushruta Samhita, but I had not heard of this plastic surgery and the ophthalmic cataract surgery. And today you have cataract surgeries being done in just an hour or half an hour. People walk in and walk out and go home. That's how easy it's begun. It's become. But when did it begin? It began in India centuries ago. The flush toilets that we use, you use a toilet and you flush it almost like a reflex action today. But did you know that this was also introduced in India first? Then we've all heard of the Raman effect. Yes, and Dr. C.V. Raman, that's known. But do we know that steel was first created in India? I'm sure many of you didn't know that. And the microwave, something so popular, so common, was first recognized in India, or I may say discovered in India. So we have a history of innovation, but centuries of invasion and being ruled by rulers has taken a lot of all our talents away, or rather subdued our talents. But the time has now come where we collectively as Indians need to wake up. We need to tell ourselves we can do it. And that's when we will be able to jointly answer this call for Atmanirbhar Bharat. So now, if we have to be part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, not all of us, but many of us need to become entrepreneurs. And you can become a small entrepreneur, and this method forward is to have a startup. So what do I gain by becoming an entrepreneur? If you ask that question, the first thing is, yes, all of you know you become employers. You become owners of the company, and I already have a few students of ICT who so proudly call themselves CEOs of a company they've started. So that's the kind of motivation it gives you. You will be creating employment. Maybe you will employ 2 people first, but you can always dream big and employ 200, 2000 over a period of time. More importantly, you will be participating in this important activity, which is creating wealth for the nation. So you will be creating wealth for the nation. You will be contributing to Atmanirbhar Bharat. And Bharat is our land. We have to work for it. So I always like to quote what management guru Shiv Khera has said. He has said this long back, but this is something that has stood with me. And this has been something that has motivated me a lot. Where it says winners don't do different things. They do things differently. So the same things they would do differently. So why am I talking about winning? Because I have related this to innovation. And how do I twist this to relate it to innovation? I say innovators don't see different things. They see things differently. They see the same things differently. So to give you an illustration that all of you would understand, the apple has been falling ever since an apple tree grew. But who discovered gravity? Newton. Why? Because he saw that fall differently. He didn't think, oh, it's something that's falling. I must run away and see that it doesn't fall on my head. He said, why is it falling? That makes a difference. So when you start thinking differently, innovation can lead to disruptive technologies. And when I say disruptive, in today's context, disruptive is something that can change the way society reacts, the society handles something. It would change some basic behavior pattern in society through some kind of intervention. For instance, if we just see over a period of time, the mobile phone, and then WhatsApp, and then today Google Meet, and what we are doing today, we're talking to each other. I have no clue where all of you are, and I'm sure all of you are not in the same place. So this is disruptive technology that we are talking about. So this is some of the disruptive technologies of this particular 20th and which are going to continue in the 21st century. I have just listed out here. So you have AI, artificial intelligence being talked of, blockchain technology, 3D printing, virtual and augmented reality. In fact, yesterday we had at ICT a lecture on innovation and design thinking. So there, when the students were asked, what do you think you would like to have? Something new. One of them told the speaker, sir, I would like to come and shake your hand virtually, but it should look like we are shaking hands. You know, that's augmented reality that he was dreaming about. And then you have Internet of Things flooding every aspect of life. But if you look at these disruptive technologies, what India did centuries ago, India has not done. This has all come into India from elsewhere. But it doesn't mean that we cannot participate in disruptive technologies. And understanding the latent talent, understanding that talent must be nurtured and talent must be triggered early on in life. This very visionary NISP has been created and it has been spread across higher education institutions because that is the age in which students can be nurtured. And while nurturing students, the bright students serve as excellent triggers and motivation stimuli for the faculty. So it becomes win-win for both faculty and students. And while we are thinking of these disruptive technologies, is this all innovation? No. We must not forget our rural grassroots innovations. So what is innovation? It is an idea that can be useful to society. It is not an idea on paper. Okay. So very important, an idea on paper can be a patent. A patent is considered innovative, but if it has to become an innovation, it has to be licensed. And not just licensed, but it has to be commercialized by the licensee. Or a startup has to be initiated using that idea and it has to be commercialized. So when we talk of innovation, we are talking of an application. Like you see here, a washing machine is what she's pedaling to wash clothes. Here you see, the lady doesn't have to hold her hands up like that to hold that water. That's very painful for the shoulders. So here you have such a simple device, but makes her life so simple. And this man moving across floods, designing something like a raft boat just for 2 feet, like raft shoes he has designed. So these are grassroots innovations which are equally relevant. So innovation doesn't mean disruptive ideas. It means thinking differently, any idea that has relevance to society. So with this, what I would call relevance to academic institutions or implications for academic institutions, we will now move into understanding what NISP is trying to say. And the vision of NISP, I have said it earlier, I am very happy to repeat it, is to achieve a $5 trillion economy by 2024. So it doesn't mean that the institutes have to work towards this alone. It means institutes have to contribute to this path that our nation is trying to climb. So the NISP expects to engage students, faculty, and staff of higher education institutions. Right now, it is only for the higher education institutions, not for schools up to and junior colleges, in innovation and entrepreneurship related activities, and to facilitate the MHRD in bringing uniformity across these higher education institutions in terms of intellectual property ownership management and technology licensing, because this is critical for any innovation, for any startup. And maybe you only have the innovation and the intellectual property and you don't have the entrepreneurship or your own startup, you can give it to somebody else, to a company. So this becomes very important, the IPR and the technology licensing. And also NISP recommends implementing the institutional startup policy to enable creation of a robust innovation and startup ecosystem across all HEIs. And I'm very pleased to let you know, of course you all know, and that's why I'm here, that ICT has already finalized the policy. It's approved by the Board of Governors and it is already uploaded on our website. So anybody who wants to take a look can go to our website and take a look at the policy. This slide presents in brief the gist of the NISP. So what does the NISP cover? It covers strategies and governance. It deals with startups, enabling institutional infrastructure, that is an infrastructure that will allow startups to grow, nurturing innovations and startups. So that is what I said. You don't need to wait till they pass out. You can do it when the student is in the institute. Product ownership rights, that is the IPR rights, deciding the policies for that. Organizational capacity, human resources, and incentives for students and faculty to get into this entrepreneurial mode, and creating an innovation pipeline and pathways for entrepreneurs at institute level. So this would be proactively supporting the initiative. So we will look at each of these in brief just to understand, because if I just say strategies and governance, it may not mean much. So we will just look at it very briefly to understand a little more in detail all these aspects that I have listed out here. So this gives you the big picture. We will look at the smaller pictures of each of these now. So when one talks of strategies and governance, one is addressing entrepreneurship promotion and development. Development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. This is very, very critical and important. Implementation of the entrepreneurial vision through mission statements. So these should be displayed here and there. A plan for resource mobilization should be put in, because this would involve funds. And the funds, of course, could be provided initially by the management of private colleges. Government colleges have, particularly state government colleges have a challenge, but institutions like ours rely a lot on our alumni. So that is one big base. For any institution that has a lot of alumni, they are very happy to give back to their own alma mater. Importance of the innovation and entrepreneurial agenda to be propagated. The student and faculty startup policy and action plan should be formulated. So every institution, I think your institution should also start working on that, and ICT will be very happy to support you in this if you need any kind of support. Strategic international partnerships to be developed, but much at a later stage, and also promote innovation and entrepreneurship in society. So these last 2 points are with a long-term vision. So once you are strong, start moving out. Now, how do you create a startups enabling institutional infrastructure? So the first step is to support pre-incubation, and that is what you have done, and it is exactly what is happening right now. So you have the Institute Innovation Council that has organized this lecture, and this is nothing other than startup enabling. You can have an entrepreneurship development cell, or a combined innovation and entrepreneurship development cell, or a new generation IEDC, a startup cell. There could be students club, etc. When I show you the ICT policy, I will actually give you some examples on how we have planned to do it. What is also required is an incubation cum technology commercialization unit, which is preferably a separate entity like a Section 8 company. And HEIs can also offer mentoring and other relevant services through pre-incubation or incubation, depending on which stage you are in. It could be for a charge so that you become self-sustaining. It could be not cash like fees, but equity sharing. Or it could also be on a zero payment basis if there are other modes of supporting and subsidizing the entrepreneur costs. The third aspect is to nurture. So this nurturing is to have processes and mechanisms for easy creation and nurturing of startups and enterprises by students, which are UG, PG, PhD, and staff. When you talk of staff, you're talking of staff who work on these scientific projects, faculty, and it should also extend slowly to alumni and outside startup applicants also. Over a period of time, excuse me, it can go on in stages. Provide incubation support. So you can provide facility, you can provide infrastructure. If possible, you can also provide funds. But you can start with facility and infrastructure. You can allow licensing of IPR from the institute to startups. If somebody has developed their own IPR and they want to start up, then whether there would be a charge. So that the institute also gains something, because an entrepreneurship is obviously a business initiative, but this can be in the terms of equity and not in terms of cash, because initially people will not have cash to spare. Allow setting up of a startup, and not only allow, but allow part-time working for the startups while studying or working. That's for students while studying and for faculty while working. And students who are working in such startups that they have initiated should be allowed to sit for the examination, even if their attendance is less. But this doesn't mean if they are not there for the whole semester, that comes later. Then yes, so you can, if the student cannot be there for a whole semester, you can allow a semester or up to a year break and not show it as a year drop like you would show it for somebody who has failed. So the result that they get would not show a year drop. And allow faculty and staff also to take off for a semester or a sabbatical, or in certain cases, allow unpaid leave, casual leave, earned leave to be utilized for this purpose. And also importantly, NISP suggests starting a part-time or full-time MS, MBA, PGDM in innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture development. So through all these activities, you would be nurturing innovations and startups. You can also facilitate startup activities and technology development by allowing students and faculty to use the infrastructure and also provide some additional training, provide mentorship support, and also support in various areas, because it's not only the idea. So right from ideation, creativity, design thinking, fundraising, maybe business development, product development, brand development, which is the marketing angle, all aspects that would impact a business, including legal and regulations. Supporting them by linking them to seed fund providers, angel funds, venture funds is also something that the institute can help through their resources and their contacts. And in return of all the services and facilities, the institute may take 2 to 9.5% equity or stake, which could be in terms of cash, but the upper limit suggested by NISP is 9.5%. They suggest you don't go beyond this for regulatory reasons. Now, product ownership rights, we saw IPR is again very critical. So when institute facilities and funds are used substantially, or when IPR is developed as part of curriculum, which means a M.Pharm project or a PhD project, or maybe even a B.Pharm project, IPR is to be jointly owned by the inventors and the institute. And inventors and institute could together license the product or IPR to any commercial organization, with inventors having the primary say in terms of who is the best person to license it to. And then you have the license fee, which is a financial transaction, which could be an upfront fee or a one-time fee. It could be royalty. It could be shares in the company. Or in case an institute cannot hold equity, as per the current statutes, which could be a challenge for government institutions, a special purpose vehicle, which is a Section 8 company, can be created, which can hold the equity. So this is about IPR. So whatever I am reading out are recommendations only. They are not the rules. So the rules have to be framed by the institute. So institutes can use their current rules and make them more robust and see that to a large extent they are following the mandate of NISP. Now coming to the organization and human resource and incentives, it's important to have staff with strong innovation and entrepreneurial experience, behavior, and attitude, because this is very important for progress in this direction. Certain faculty members with prior exposure and interest can be deputed for training. And then I'm sure this is what you do, because that's what I heard your student coordinator saying, you have guest lectures. And you can also encourage faculty and staff to do special courses on innovation, entrepreneurship, management, and venture development. Create a reward system so that it could become an attraction for students to walk in this direction and a motivation. So once you've done all that, you also need to create an innovation pipeline and pathway. So first is innovation pipeline. The student who enters the institute, students who are in the institutes must know that there is something like this happening in my institute. It can't just be in one office of a faculty member who's a convener or the president IIC. Spreading awareness is very, very critical about the value of entrepreneurship and its role in career development or employability. Students should be encouraged into the entrepreneurial mindset with all these ideas. These are all ideas, again, which MHRD IIC is already promoting through the innovation councils, and I'm sure your institution is practicing all this. Have awards and recognitions, and very important is to establish the IIC as per guidelines, and I think that is done because you're talking of all the positions that IIC has been recognized on in their council. And networking events should be organized. This is a minor networking event with only one with many, but we should also have many networking events. Now coming to this very important aspect is the norms. So you say let faculty have startups or students have startups. So how does one manage? Because the teaching has to go on. So whatever you're doing is not at the expense of what is already happening. It is not that teaching is less important today, this is more important. It's just that this is equally important, so you have to balance. So the faculty could be an owner, a promoter, a mentor, consultant, or onboard member. So you should have policy on conflict of interest to ensure that regular duties of faculty don't suffer due to their involvement in such activities. The faculty startup may be only faculty members or with students, or it could even be allowed with outsiders, because that's very important, because sometimes you need a collaboration with expertise that's not available in one institute. So this must be permitted. That's what NISP is saying, and I think I agree with it totally. And in case of selection of a faculty startup by an outside national or international accelerator, because today you have people applying for grants. So if somebody gets selected like that, then maximum leave should be granted. So the institute must be open, allow the person to avail that opportunity, because it is something that's going to bring in great recognition for the institute. Then we come to the next aspect, which is equally important, that is pedagogy or teaching and learning interventions. So how is that learning done? It can be done through student clubs, which I'm sure you have, bodies, departments, and then you have competitions, boot camps, workshops, awards. NISP suggests an annual innovation and entrepreneurship award be created, so that students start vying and faculty start vying to achieve this award. Tolerate and encourage failures. If there's a failure, don't just hit out at the person, but try to understand, motivate, because anybody who gets into an entrepreneurship may fail once, but that failure sometimes is such a motivation for them that they can succeed the next any number of times. We have seen such entrepreneurs also. And then you nominate innovation champions. Now, NISP has not said innovation ambassador, but MHRD IIC has recommended nomination of innovation ambassadors in institutions. Impart entrepreneurship education. Have a good induction program when students enter the institute. Leverage industry linkages. That's very important. And change, pedagogical change in projects so that they are based around innovation on one hand and real life challenges on the other hand. So don't just think of projects from books. They're trying to say, try and observe, read up, find out, discuss about real life challenges. And most of the rural grassroots innovations can happen if you try to address real life challenges for entrepreneurs who are beginners. But of course, if you're looking at total disruption, probably it's the bigger companies. Then we have this collaboration, co-creation. I saw these words in Dr. Neha's presentation also. So you have policy and guidelines for forming and managing relationships with external stakeholders, including private industries, knowledge exchange also through collaboration and partnership, and have a single point of contact so that any student, any faculty who even starts thinking in this direction can immediately go and talk to this person who would be one of the biggest motivators for them. So that should be one person and not a committee, because having one person and the right person is very, very important here. So at ICT, I am the Spock. So with this, I have presented to you a gist of the NISP. It's a huge, huge document, which I would suggest you read. But in the light of what you have listened to now, if you read it, it would not be boring. Because otherwise, documents and policies, somehow there is an attitude that, yes, it could be boring. What do I get from it? No. There's a lot you need to read and understand, because you could sift out a lot of things that could be useful, that could be implemented. And in doing that, you need to come up with your policy. So I will just breeze you through the ICT policy. So ICT, for those who don't know, is the Institute of Chemical Technology, formerly known as UDCT. And this is our heritage stone building. 1933, ICT was created, and we are almost 85 plus years now. In 2016, ICT has expanded into 2 new campuses, one in Bhubaneswar and one in Marathwada, Jalna, which is in Maharashtra state itself. So ICT also is growing, and the whole idea of growth was a very innovative aspect of the institution. So innovation need not be only in technology, it could be in any aspect of life. So this is the table of contents, the first page of the policy. So it's the introduction about the council, which is as per the MHRD IIC recommendation. Then we have a Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer, which we are planning. A venture pre-incubation and incubation program. Then, of course, the guidelines for involvement of faculty, staff, and research scholars and students. Here we have segregated research scholars as a master's students, and students, we mean the undergraduate students. So somewhere we have a glossary that lists that out. And then we've also tried to identify some conflict of interest situations that could come up. But of course, as you move on, there could be very special conflict of interest situations that come up, which would need special handling at that point of time. And we are actually dealing with one such. We've started the policy, and we've already started with a conflict of interest situation, which we will be resolving it soon also. So what is our framework? Our framework has 3 components. The Innovation Council, which you are familiar, it's the same like yours, but I'll show you some differences that we have made in that. Then we have the Innovation and Technology Transfer. This is to take care of the NISP requirement of IPR and technology licensing. Then we have the Pre-Incubation and Incubation program in 3 phases. First is pre-incubation. So this is just the idea, and the student wants to develop the POC. That is the pre-incubation. Once a POC is ready, it can move to incubation in phases. First, phase 1, where probably a prototype is done, and then maybe launching the entrepreneurship and taking it forward as a company. So the Innovation Council, this is the mandate of the Innovation Council. All of us are familiar with, but very important is to prepare the institute for the Atal ranking of institutions on innovation achievement framework. That is the ARIA ranking that institutions across the country are competing for now. But what we did is, since we already had an ECEL, when our Innovation Council came up, the ECEL students started wondering, now what is this Innovation Council and what is the ECEL? So I had to explain to them very clearly that there is no difference, because innovation and entrepreneurship at this level of students, that is the entrepreneurship cell, would focus on very much similar activities with small differences, and you must work in synergy. And therefore, what we have done is we have additional members on the council, which is the ECEL secretaries, both UG and PG, the ECEL faculty in charge, and all the innovation ambassadors who have been nominated now are also part of our council. So we have expanded the council, and this particular structure, in the first year, it was a little difficult with students to convince them that it is the same, because the ECEL, since it was growing, they felt somebody was coming in their way. The second year, it was absolutely smooth. And this year, there's no problem, because somebody who was on the Innovation Council last year as a member has become the ECEL secretary this year, got elected. So now there is fantastic synergy between the two. So that is something that we did by adding a few members and, adding to the council. Now this, I will skip the top part, is exactly what the Innovation Council says. So it says, and the last is organize hackathons, etc., etc. And I'm sure your college is doing all of this, but what are the initiatives we are planning is what I would like to focus on. So we have an e-cell, but we are planning to also have an e-club. We are planning to have an ICT launchpad online, ICT fireside chats, which we have already started, ICT venture mentoring service, which we are going to start, ICT pitch. Yes, a lot of our students have gone and pitched ideas outside, and we are going to start it within to train them so that many more can go and pitch outside. ICT solve or ideas to POC is the other initiative, which would be like an idea competition. Then an ICT Angel Forum, where we are planning to look at our alumni who could come in and keep participating in all these idea and other activities so that they can identify one, good ideas, which are probably commercializable, and two, they could also identify those students who have the entrepreneurship fire in them, so that we could take these students and start mentoring them. And then, of course, an ICT startup internship where they would be sent for internship, particularly to small startups. So they are actually learning the game the way they would need to handle it if they decide to get into this venture. Then we're planning a center for innovation and technology transfer. So this is a very critical center because anything in an entrepreneurship deals around innovation and IPR. So here, what is our mission? Our mission is to be an effective interface with the industry to foster, promote, and sustain commercialization of innovations, patents, and technologies developed at the Institute for mutual benefits. And we plan to structure it as an office under the aegis of ICT, but it will be transferred to the legal entity as a Section 8 company under the Companies Act, and we will call it as the ICT Venture Incubator, which would be done during phase 2. Phase 1, we would try to do it within the institute itself, but ensuring that legally nothing is disturbed. And what is the charter of this center? This center would devise innovative ways to create partnerships and linkages for ICT with businesses and the wider community to enable knowledge transfer for the common good, license IPR to corporates, raise funds for research, foster technology development, technical consultancy, R&D, site visits, HR development and other training programs, and also short-term courses on emerging technologies for both the institute and the industry. So if there is an emerging technology and we have some kind of lead there, then we would try and find out companies that are in that area and try and, go and showcase it to them through a short-term course so that they understand the benefits of the technology. And that would just be kind of creating a customer base. Then we have the pre-incubation and incubation program. So in this phase called pre-incubation, what we would be looking at is advice regarding appropriate training programs on all these aspects, ranging from entrepreneurship to incubation facilities, services, grants, fundraising, networking. And during this period of pre-incubation, what the entrepreneurial person would be doing would be working on validating their ideas for technical feasibility and market viability before approaching incubators or investors. So this is the first stage, like I told you, POC and validating the POC. Then we have phase 1 incubator. So this again would be a Section 8 company. And when one wants to incubate in this incubator, the faculty or student should ideally have incorporated a company. But if this company is not incorporated, we would allow them to incubate, but within 6 months, they would have to incorporate a company. But at this point, since we don't have an incubator, we are looking at it and probably we could have one soon. But in the meantime, if there is a requirement for our students, We will be partnering with other incubators. We are already partnering with Sydney IIT because we have Dr. Poini Bhatt on our Innovation Council as the member from a nearby incubation center. We are in touch with Venture Center NCL Pune because one of our alumnus is very active in the Venture Center, Dr. Smita Kale. Our project, in fact, one of my projects is pre-incubated at Somaya Vidya Vihar, that is Bioriddle, where my student is working on it. And then others outside Bombay also. And right now we are, I won't say partnering, but we are associating with the GDC Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center at IIT Madras. I will show you what we are doing with them. And then in phase 2, we would set up a proper venture incubator with that 5,000 to 10,000 square feet as required under the Atal incubation centers or the DBT BIRAC centers, because once we do this, we will try and apply for the grant, which they give right from 1 crore to about 2.5 crores. So we will look at that in phase 2. And once we reach that level, we would also provide incubation support to external startups. And we would try to see that when we give support to an external startup, if possible, priority to where our faculty or students are associated as consultants or mentors with other entrepreneurs. So what would be the role of ICT venture incubator vis-a-vis the startup? So what would the startups gain by becoming a part of ICT VI? So ICT VI will support with a combination of inputs, including first space, then laboratories and equipment facilities, advice on IPR and commercial transactions, business and financial structuring, because most of the time technology people, science people, people like us don't understand this. So we really need advice, mentoring and networking support, advice on fundraising, logistics support, monitoring, reporting, and also most important, permission to use our brand of ICT Venture Incubator, ICT VI. Now we come to the guidelines that ICT has created for faculty, staff, research scholars. So what we have said is that any permanent faculty member or staff or research, all types of faculty, including faculty on tenure, we have a lot of DST Inspire and UGC faculty recharge, etc. Then postdoc fellows, etc. Whoever has a life registration will be encouraged. So when we encourage, they will be permitted to use a specified physical or intellectual resources of ICT as per prevailing rules. And the definition of startup that we'll be looking at is what is notified by the Government of India. So it's an entity headquartered in India, which was incorporated less than 10 years ago with an annual turnover of less than 100 crores. So this is something that we would look at, but all the small startups are going to be nowhere near 100 crores. So we would not have a serious challenge there, but it has to be India. Now, very important, this startup would be promoted by the individuals, that's the faculty and students, and not by ICT, neither the venture incubator. And ICT should have no reputational or financial liabilities that accrue, and equity stake of ICT VI in the company must always be protected. Participation in these activities would be a legitimate activity of faculty, and this would be considered during the annual performance of faculty. So there is a plan that this could be included in the API score that is used when faculty apply for promotion. And each faculty is encouraged to mentor one startup at least. Of course, these are all very ambitious. Every faculty may not, but once this is there, we could have 10% initially, which slowly starts going up. And whatever engagement with the startup would be subject to prior approval. So everything requires the right kind of permission from the institute before associating with any business venture, which is a startup of somebody else or starting a new venture through a proper application process. So we've already created formats for that also, which are put up. Part-time engagement is possible. Full-time engagement with sabbatical, special leave as recommended by NISP. So we have allowed this. And we are talking of leave up to 1 year, extendable up to maximum 2 years for full-time work in the startup. And permission will be given every 6 months and must be extended. So we're not giving a 1 year permission. The recommendation is that you apply, the faculty will apply, get 6 months permission, then every 6 months you apply, but it's maximum 2 years, and it is not the right of the faculty, but the faculty must justify the need. So in 6 months, one would know really whether it's progressing and whether there is need for more time. And that is why we decided we'd not give the permission for 1 year. Now, we had a very nice committee. We had about 5 or 6 industry experts, a legal expert, somebody who had a lot of expert in IPR, entrepreneurs, people with big corporate, from big corporates, entrepreneurs from big corporates, etc., as part of our committee. So these rules were debated, discussed at length. I think it went through 3 or 4 discussion sessions and a lot of emailing sessions before we analyzed and finalized our policy. This is for scholars and students. So I would like to just say, since I've been talking for quite a long time, but for students at ICT, for UG students, ICT has decided, as per this policy, not to charge anything. But if it's a PG student and the student is initiating a startup based on their work done at ICT, maybe as part of their research project, or the project has per se initial POC done at ICT, then there is a share that would be the 2 to 9.5%, which would be discussed by a committee, and the actual value arrived at based on what kind of contribution or what kind of facility they have taken from ICT for that. So the upper end would not exceed 9.5, but at the lower it would be minimum 2. But very important, the student must satisfy all norms, including attendance requirements during the program of the study to earn a degree. So that is very, very critical, attendance. So if they are not able to attend, they have to take leave with permission or a break and then come back and complete. Now, in case of research scholars, again, the leave is just like faculty, maximum of 2 years. Okay, so the research scholar must apply for approval of engagement, and the startup must enter into an agreement with ICTVI. And it's very important that the mode of engagement with the startup, besides including ICT technology or intellectual property being licensed to the startup, all this must be very clearly defined. And when on the startup, the research scholar or student will not receive any fellowship. However, if during that period, this is a very big paragraph, so you can just listen to me while you're reading it. So during that period, if a student earns something, they don't need to share with ICT. However, if the compensation is related to any work done in ICT, then it would be treated as norms for consultancy projects for faculty at ICT. But this again will be applicable only to research scholars and not to undergraduate students. And again, attendance requirements. This is the last sentence about satisfying all the norms for attendance. So this is for equity sharing. I will just point out this 2 to 9.5%. And in this, there will be a lot of, a committee would have to come in, it would have to deliberate, and it would be finalized. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I don't think it applies to you at this point of time. And then for IPR, what we have proposed is it can be equity shares if the startup cannot afford to pay, or it could be an upfront or one-time technology transfer fee, or it could be a royalty as percentage of sales. And very important, it also takes care of, issues where a member could retire, superannuate, or leave the job. So then also this, whatever is going to be the mode of sharing would be decided. Conflict of interest situations, I told you we have identified. We also have guidelines for management and resolution, but we don't discuss this now because let's think positive and assume that there is going to be no conflict of interest in most cases. So I will just tell you that yes, we are prepared for this and the policy needs to be prepared for this. That is very, very important. We hope we never need to use it though. So with that, I will come to the ICT success stories in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship. So the first success story is the ARIA ranking 2020, where we stood first among state government institutes. So we don't compete with you. So again, success story, we believe that we are the first institute to have put up this innovation and startup policy, because I heard that at a very important meeting where our vice chancellor attended just 3 days ago, some very senior person pointed out that ICT is already up, got their policy in place and it is uploaded on the website. So we were very happy that it's got visibility also. And yes, these are student success stories. So this is a very recent success story where this student, Prerna Tomke, working with Professor Rathod, she was a winner of the National Bio Entrepreneurs Competition, NBEC, and she got 5 awards for Nano Pearl, where she's proposing clean drinking water and very economical. So many awards, and this girl doesn't have any specific entrepreneurship training. So through their boot camp, she got trained and she moved up and she bagged so many awards. This is a very, very, very recent award that she has won. It was almost, I think, December 2020. Other success stories are when IIC started in 2018. By Jan 2019, we had set up the IIC. At that time, in March, April, May, there was this proof of concept competition for the first time where ICT bagged 2 awards. One was this award for Raktada, which is, this is a blood group detection kit. And this is a pregnancy detection kit, which was a first prize, which was awarded to Amit Lokhande. And this is a pregnancy detection kit from urine in cattle. And I am very proud to tell you that both these are my PhD students. So it was very, very motivating for the entire ICT and the research group in particular. But after having received these awards, both of them received entrepreneurial training. They are currently nominated innovation ambassadors by MHRD, IIC. There are only 18 such nominated innovation ambassadors in the country, and 2 of them are from ICT, and both of them happen to be my students. Amit is pre-incubated in Bioriddle for this pregnancy detection kit and has received a grant of 6 lakhs from AICT MHRD for this. And we are also imparting entrepreneurial training to our students. So here we have 3 groups, and this training is currently on. It has just started, just 1 week is over. It has entered the 2nd week. And this is at the Gopal Krishna Deshpande Incubation Center, IIT Madras at Chennai. So we have 3 teams with 6 students here, and the faculty lead here is Professor Amit Pratap from ICT, from the Oils Department. Here we have 3 faculty and 2 students, and the GDC gives you an business mentor. So this is a business mentor. Similarly, here is a business mentor provided by GDC, and we have 3 faculty, Dr. Reena Pandit, Dr. Annamma, and Dr. Nitin Trivedi, and they are in biotech. And then this is a team of, these are all research students. So they're working on their own research projects here and taking it for an entrepreneurship. This is a polysaccharide for wound management. Here they are looking at particles in cosmetics scrubs. They're looking at fine particles in cosmetic scrubs. And this is a 3rd team, which is very interesting, which I would like to say, all these particularly, he is an undergraduate from ICT, Saad Jamal, and he's currently in the 3rd year, whom I'm mentoring this team, and we have a business mentor also. So all these 3 teams are currently undergoing entrepreneurial training, which is very, very nice. And This team, Saad, has already formed his company. These two teams have not yet formed their company, but this boy has already formed his company called Seri Solutions, which is a learning management system. And he formed the company because it's something, he says, which should be immediately relevant when everything is going online, and he has a lot of facilities and it's being debated. The mentor is helping, and the whole GDC team there of instructors, etc., are debating, discussing on how to take things forward. So with this, ICT continues on the journey, and we hope that journey is very, very successful for us. And I also wish Sinhgad College of Pharmacy similar success in your entrepreneurial innovation journey. Thank you so much.
Now the session is open for question and answers.
Thank you, madam. It was excellent session guiding, motivating students and faculty at our institute. I mean, we have seen some of the success stories of ICT. I would only say that, we all know that ICT is very tall in terms of its academic contribution, the research contribution, innovation, and all other things, both at faculty and students front. We know that, we being some, young institute, a non-aided institute, I know that we have certain limitations. However, I feel that, I mean, this is particularly for our students, that what is more important is that we require a very, very innovative mind. And for that, we need not necessarily be very, very brilliant. And that is why some of the grassroots innovations that Padma madam has shown, those grassroots innovations have come from, very, I mean, people like you and me, or even average people also. So I feel, looking at the contribution of I'm sure our SKNCOP students and would try to follow this path of ICT's and we may soon try to at least not at very, very significant level, but at least we begin our journey, and in years to come we do something better and can be noticed at the national level. Thank you, madam, for for sparing time. I would request some of our faculty members, if you could have questions, please raise your questions, including students. Vandana madam. Hello. Vandana madam, am I audible? No.
त्या बोलतात त्यांचा आवाज ऐकू येत नाही, त्या परत ट्राय करतात.
ओके ओके.
माझ्या जवळनं बोलताय का मॅडम? एकच मिनिट सर.
Hello.
Madam,
Am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible now. Yeah, you are audible now.
Good evening, madam. And first of all, I'm very thankful that with such a short notice, you have accepted our invitation and you have delivered the talk, and it was really exciting for us, not only for students, for faculty also. So just one question I have as far as this NISP policy is concerned. Like every institute should submit this policy, that I understood, but like how means like we have constituted this IIC, but like how means what is the timeline that we should submit this NISP policy? Like, is there any guideline regarding that?
As of now, there is no guideline or last date. But I don't think you have to submit it to MHRD. You have to just create it and announce it in your institute and spread the awareness in your institute. So you'll have to put it
Okay.
on your website. You can put it up on the MHRD IIC portal of your institute also, so that when they see that the policy is uploaded. But there is no last date announced as on date. But they're only saying do it as soon as you can, and basically they want you to start the movement.
Okay, because we are really at the beginning stage, so it was little bit confusion, like how fast we have to do that. So that is why I asked this question.
I think it would be best if you put that up on the president's group, so they will answer.
Okay.
Yeah, or contact Mr. Deepan Sahu.
Okay, fine. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else who has a question? Hello? Any student member from the council, do you have any questions regarding your innovations, or like how to proceed from ideation stage to the proof of concept stage? Hello, the students, we have those who have participated in the competition. You can ask your question if you have something in your mind.
I think that there are no questions. I believe it doesn't matter. If there are no questions, I think we can move to the next. We are about to close the program, right? Yeah, madam. Hello.
Yes, sir, I'll proceed with it.
Yeah, please.
We are thankful to our eminent speaker, Dr. Padma Devrajan ma'am, for guiding us and explaining in simplistic words the national innovation and startup policy, its implication for academic institutions. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks. I would like to thank Honorable Professor M.N. Navale sir, Founder, President, Sinhgad Technical Education Society, STES, Dr. Mrs. Sunanda Navale ma'am, Founder Secretary STES, Mr. Rohit Navale sir, Vice President STES, Mr. Rashna Navale Astekar ma'am, Vice President Admin STES, and Professor S.N. Navale sir, Vice President STES. A special thanks to our today's speaker, Dr. Padma Devrajan ma'am, who despite her busy schedule has guided us. I thank our respected principal, President, IIC SKNCOP, Dr. Sanjay Sawant sir, for his support. I owe my thanks to Dr. Vandana Nikam ma'am, convener IIC SKNCOP, and Dr. Neha Munnut ma'am, Innovation Activity Coordinator IIC SKNCOP, for organizing today's webinar. I would also like to thank our teaching staff. I thank all the students who have been a part of this webinar. Now I request all the teachers and the students to please switch on their cameras for a group pic.
Rahul, you need to announce once again. I think.
Yes, sir. I request all the teachers and the students to please switch on their cameras for a group pic. I request the students also to please switch on their cameras.
Please switch on your cameras. Hello. Yeah, madam.
Switch on your cameras.
No.
All the students and the faculty members, all the participants.
everyone?
Done, sir.
Nehla madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, madam. Padma madam,
Thank
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Padma Devrajan ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much.